So I want to talk a little bit about why making co-parenting with a narcissist about your boundaries is horrible advice, and I see this coming from licensed therapists. It's because the narcissist is a chronic boundary crosser. So whatever boundary you put up, the narcissist is going to cross. So do you want to make your child's life about their life? Do you want to make your parenting behavior about your child? Or do you want to deal with the constant boundary invasions by the narcissist that you procreated with? Because there's no boundary you can set that the narcissist isn't going to cross. So the more you hold firm to the boundaries, the more anger and toxicity exists in this relationship between you and this narcissist, and that is absorbed into the child. So it's a very simple question. Whose mental health do you value more in the relationship between a narcissistic ex, you, and your child? Is it you or your child? That's the question. So it's not really about boundaries because you can't set boundaries with the narcissist. And if you do, you're just going to end up getting upset all the time because he's going to be crossing them. You have to punt on that, actually. You have to understand who exactly you're dealing with and then tailor your responses in the moment to that person to limit the damage they're doing to the child and to make the toxic energy as light as possible. That's if you care about the child. I mean, if you care about yourself, then just fight with the narcissist. Then just do battle with the narcissist just like you did in your relationship. Because you have a child, and something's going to go on in this shared space that you have with this narcissist that's called your kid. And if it were me, my main priority would be controlling that shared space that is my child and trying to protect him from the other side of the equation. Because if you're not doing that, he's probably got to protect himself from both of you. That's the reality. If you're not protecting him, you're hurting him or her. So I think that's a great way to look at it. When you're co-parenting with a narcissist, even if you don't have a relationship, you have a shared space, and that's your child. And your job is to limit the damage done to that shared space, period. End of story. It has nothing to do with your boundaries. A narcissist won't, there's nothing you can do to get another person incapable of respecting boundaries to respect your boundaries. All you can do is set up expectations that will get crushed within an instant. And that leads to more suffering on your end, not on theirs. So understand what time it is and protect the children. Oh man, I forgot my profile picture. That's a funny story. I was a wild kid. If you think I was like 10 years old. I had stolen my dad's Playboys, ordered a Camel Cigarettes shirt, like a free promo shirt as like a 10-year-old. Got the shirt at the house. My mom let me. That was the only time I got to wear it, and she threw it away. But that was the kind of shit I was doing back then. I mean, and it only got worse. It only got worse. I mean, one time I went 140 miles an hour in a Mercedes S420 and then crashed, totaled the car. I caught air like Ferris Bueller. That's not a joke. Ended up on a golf course. The music came back on. It was Gimme the Loot by Big Papa. And I'm like, shit, let's get out of here. I looked up and the hood ornament was literally pushed up against the car. That was a big body Benz, one of the last ones. So, yep, it all went downhill. Well, I was raised by two of them. Nothing helps them. They help themselves. That's the thing. They're impervious to therapy because, it's like an NPD person in therapy is like Donald Trump on television. The problem becomes you have to actually fact check every sentence they say. So a therapist, when you go into therapy, the therapist is trying to find common ground. No therapist is going to accept the situation where you say, oh yeah, the other one's a narcissist, so it's going to be all my perspective and it's all going to be about me, even though that's what it should be, because the narcissist, as I always say, relationships are like this: person A, person B. Person A and B move to meet in the center. With a narcissist, they don't move. So the proper therapy would be actually the narcissist just sits there and accepts the other perspective, but that's never going to happen. So what happens is it just furthers the confusion and gives the narcissist kind of this weird thing where they get to actually then start talking more shit because it's about finding common ground. And then it just becomes about calling the narcissist out on their bullshit. And then it becomes, it's... So the problem is they lack self-awareness, they lack empathy, they lack all the tools and the motivating factors to actually do the work, and our culture celebrates them. The ability to kind of step on everyone and feel nothing about it is going to pretty much help you a lot of times in this. If you're, a tall white guy, certainly like myself. I mean, my dad's 6'4". He made tons of money. He's like Forrest Gump. I mean, he's nothing that special about him, But what helps him? It's certainly not getting 1.3 million followers worshiping them. I mean, that's like saying a person struggling with a heroin addiction gets over it by acquiring enough money to buy a poppy field and then just living on a couch right next to it and processing it. I mean, it's literally insane. If a narcissist were to heal, we would never hear about it, because the healing would be the end of attention-seeking behavior and making them the center of everything. So they would go do it in a room with all of the loved ones they've hurt, and nobody would hear about it except the loved ones. And they would just quietly go about their life not being a narcissist. But I've had them in therapy. I've had a lot of experience with it. I just don't see a way for them to get around all of the details of the personality disorder to a place where they can actually heal, which would be to say, accept other people's perspectives exist. Express their emotions directly. When they're hurt, be like, I'm hurt. Explain where their trauma comes from. Be a normal human being, basically. They lack the qualities that make people human, unfortunately, which is empathy, compassion, self-awareness. They don't have those things. So good luck with them. I wish them well. I hope it happens. There's this myth that narcissists don't go to therapy. I don't think that's true. I just don't think they get treated for narcissism. That, it's a triangulated relationship. So, like my mother, she's been in therapy this whole time. Nobody, she just goes in there and does her histrionic personality disorder. But they're triangulated. So they only have their client's information. Their client is paying them. They're advocating for their client. So there would be no real way to know this person is a narcissist, because you would need a third party kind of not telling on them, but giving an alternate perspective and saying, hey, this is fucked up what this person is saying. I mean, everyone knows you don't get in triangulated relationships with narcissists, but by definition, a therapist is triangulating you. So, in theory, it could work, in theory. But it's certainly the self-aware, all the ones on here, no, they have no idea what they're doing. And I have no faith in their diet. Nothing about that is legitimate or should be taken seriously. Those are all business plans and people making money, and what the psychological reality is over there, nobody fucking knows. So, when narcissists are involved, I just start at everything's fucking full of shit and let them prove it. And so far, they've proved absolutely nothing other than I'm right and they're wrong. So, yeah, my dad came to when I was really struggling and I was deciding whether to go to rehab, I took the MMPI, which is this 900 multiple choice question test that's supposed to diagnose mental illness. And my PhD therapist said, somebody should come when I read this to you, because it could kind of be intense. And he knows I've been talking about my dad. He was also my dad's lawyer's therapist. That's how I got this guy, because my dad used to share a house, a duplex, with his lawyer. And so my dad comes in, and the therapist fucks up. He says, so here's the diagnosis. Your depression is so bad we should worry about you not being here. Your anxiety's worse and you're addicted to cocaine. Now, why he fucking said that last part, no one can ever be sure. But when my dad left, my dad sat there like his little quiet mouse. He looked so uncomfortable. He didn't say shit. The therapist's like, that guy can never help you. Which begs the question again, why the fuck would you tell him that? Because that was just the easiest out. It would have been easier if they just thought it was drinking and fucking weed or whatever. Who cares? They didn't need to know what. So even opiates would have been. For some reason, that just really sat with me wrong that he I signed a disclaimer, but or a release, but one would think that's not part of the diagnosis. So anyway, they're just going to use what they learn in therapy against you. That's my point. Right. It's pathological. This seems to be a very hard thing for people to understand in the kind of, and again, this is the mental health care community's fucking communication problems. They think it's like depression, but it's like depression, there's you, supposedly, there's this baseline of you, and then you're depressed, and then you go back to you. Personality disorders, and I don't think BPD is a personality disorder. I think it's a response to trauma. So is NPD, but NPD is so early, it's intractable. It becomes the person. BPD is a response to ongoing trauma, akin to CPTSD. But like, what NPD entails makes it virtually impossible to change. You would have to convince them that there's like something in their best interest that's like this kind of neutral thing to get them to do stuff, because they can't actually see anything other than their own needs and other than their own perspective. And that's pathological. Depression isn't really pathological, it's clinical, and people really don't know the difference between all these things. Everybody's talking out of their ass. A lot of therapists don't know the difference. There's also this cult of authority gone wrong in this country and culture where I think people's idea of what getting a psychology degree actually is and what they think it is are about as far as here and Pluto. Because like people's engagement with school, people's kind of like, you can get a degree fairly easily. I have had some really stupid therapists, really stupid, really fucking stupid. And we just don't have a handle on these disorders like everyone who doesn't seek help thinks. The disorders themselves, I always say the word is not the thing, right? So they're acting like somebody's going down into this mind, this subterranean mind, and discovering, oh, there's BPD, there's depression, there's generalized anxiety disorder, like you discover like diamonds. It doesn't work like that. These words don't represent anything tangible. They're representing series and webs of observed behavior that don't speak at all to the lived experience. It's all a fucking mess. And this NPD stuff, like, it's gotten out of hand. It still needs to be talked about and clarified, but it is getting caught in the zeitgeist and becoming fucking completely useless as a term. But that's what this culture is doing. It's destroying language so the fascists can win. Because they want you to believe that the thing is the word.